So, Kelly, have you ever heard of a man named Dr. Park Dietz?
The name sounds familiar.
So he is my stepfather-in-law. He is the one that created the definition of what a stalker is.
Oh, that's probably why I've heard of him then.
He's kind of an important guy. He, for lack of better words, he is the go-to guy, the most famous forensic psychiatrist in the world. And he's spoken all around the world regarding workplace violence prevention, dealing with lawsuits, stalking, physical violence, verbal abuse, everything. And, any form of communication abuse, et cetera, or contacts. So everything that you have mentioned is stuff that I learned when I actually worked for Dr. Dietz for a while. And then, he's one of the best regarding threat assessment. And so, again, he has a company called Threat Assessment Group, TAG, which deals with workplace violence prevention. Then he has Park Dietz and Associates, which is the legal side of his business where he has to testify in court. Most of his cases were on the prosecution side, but a lot lately has been on the defense side. So in any event, and hopefully I got that right, Dr. Dietz, but he's actually coming home today from being gone for over a week. And he's in Texas on it's the biggest, I won't even get into it, but it's a big case. So I find that fascinating that you bring that up. And what I've learned through Dr. Dietz and through stalking. And so you're right about all that. And if you go to report it at work, hopefully you have a good team approach, which is EAP, Employee Assistance Program, legal, HR, security, and whatever else is part of that team, where they are trained properly. They have the proper protocols in place where they can address those issues and not have any stereotypical garbage or whatever. And, and they probably have instant forms where the person will have to fill that out. So you start getting pen to paper and recorded, and then they start diving into your personal background and what's going on. Cause I've taken so many, when I used to work for Dr. Dietz, I took numerous intake calls from those teams, from big companies that would call in and say, hey, we've got this issue with so-and-so. The husband's showing up at work, threatening the front desk, trying to get through to see the wife. He's threatening this and that. He won't leave the parking lot. He's scaring other employees. You see this whole snowball effect. And then now employees are scared to show up to work. Now you got a working problem. You have a company problem. So anyways, that whole thing. And then the mindset thing that you got in that I love anything that has to do with the mindset, because, as kids, we're brought up through our family, and now that family can mean entirely different upon every single person, as we know in this world. So to just summarize, we're raised to believe certain things based upon how our upbringing, and taught through our parents or relatives or friends or whatever, and what we saw, to where we kind of have this mold in our head as we get older. And you're right, though, when you get in these relationships, you're going based upon how you grew up and how you are and how you should probably act. But then you get thrown a curveball and you don't know how to handle that. And then you're kind of in denial because you're like, well, I thought this was the person. And this goes for men too, by the way. So yeah, then you're like, well, wait a minute. I thought it was supposed to be this way, and this was my knight in shining armor, or she was my princess, whatever. But for lack of better words. And yeah, it's just a total mind F. And you got to learn how to deal with it. So I'm glad you're addressing those issues. I think you put some statistics on your website that was 1 in 3 women have been abused. Was it? Did I read that right? I forget all the statistics that Dr. Dietz has.
Oh, yeah, me too. And that's why I always hesitate when people are like, what are the statistics? I'm like, well, how current?
Right.
Because the thing to remember too is reporting. How often do people report?
Absolutely.
And so often, and you bring up men as the victim, and the studies I've read have shown that men don't report as much. But when they do report, they have many more instances of the abuse. Right. So they've been abused maybe longer, more times, but society said, well, that just doesn't happen to men, or man up, or whatever it is, or they don't pay attention. In fact, actually, I was going to say the last Journal of Assessment pull that up.
And by the way, we're also speaking
threat
about
assessment management.
There you go.
The very first study that was in here, which was fascinating, was understanding female perpetrated stalking. Which it says there's not many studies, because when we think of stalkers, we think of a male. And so it was an interesting way to look at it from another perspective of like, because, and this is where, it's for some reason I see society joking when it comes to a female being the instigator. Women can, I'm going to, follow or show up where at the band's hotel. I'm going to follow him out and see if I can try and meet him face to face, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to, do all my Google online searching to see what all the information I could find out about him. And I will admit that I get super curious about people. And so if I meet someone new, I'm going to spend a lot of time researching, looking into, trying to learn as much as I can about you. And in fact, it was funny when I started the situational awareness journey, I purchased Gavin DeBecker's Gift of Fear book, and I was cracking up because a lot of what he was saying in there, I'm like, ooh, that's like sales training 101, or, ooh, I've done that. I never thought about that as being creepy, or, doing the forced teaming. That's sales.
Gavin DeBecker and Dr. Dietz started together the workplace violence prevention program decades ago. And
Mike, it was kismet that we were supposed to connect.
And then they split and went their own separate ways. And Gavin DeBecker is an extremely good marketer. Park is an extremely intelligent person who...
I like how you very subtly said that, Mike.
Thank you. Hopefully that was for good.
No, and I'm just saying that those are things that, again, I don't think people are aware that their behaviors can be threatening or can be misinterpreted as stalking, as creepy, as off-putting, as offensive. And no, I'm not talking about everyone being sensitive or overly sensitive and making mountains out of molehills. But I think that conversation so often, for instance, my husband just finished reading my book. Now, again, we talked about his background, and he's seen a lot of bad things. He has seen humans do really awful, evil things to other humans. And in that book, he said, or in my book, he said, wow, there's things that I had never thought of from that female perspective. He's like, every guy should read this book too. I'm like, you're saying that because you're married to me, but I will still take that as good. I wanted to show that there is one particular story that I wanted to show that different perspective. A gentleman had shared a story with me of he was trying to offer assistance to a female, and thankfully he shared the story, because then I had the opportunity to say, hey, I can understand where everything you were doing had good intentions. You were trying to be a gentleman. You were trying to help, but let me give you it from this perspective.
Can I interject?
And why? If a woman says, no, thanks, I don't need your help, and you basically say, move over, I know you need my help, how that's condescending, mansplaining, and could come across as a very threatening type behavior. And so it's that conversation. I don't think men are the problem. I don't think any other human is a problem. I think, to your point, how we were raised, social conditioning, the culture, religious beliefs, what you saw growing up in your parents' relationships. I think there's so many nuances. And so, yes, that can be overwhelming to talk about from a self-defense instructor perspective. Doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it.
Absolutely. And by the way, we're also including domestic partners. So, we're not just trying to be narrow-minded here. So it's everybody, and it should be. But having said that, you mentioned about the gentleman trying to help the lady. My wife was approached 2 weeks ago. She was driving. She actually had a problem with one of her back right tire last month, and we got it fixed and repaired. So it's a totally brand new tire. So she's at a red light stuck, and I've always told her, keep your distance, keep gaps, be able to look at the bottom of the tires in the car in front of you. And if you need to get out, you do what you can, bump her car out of there. And some guy walks, she sees in her side rear, a dude walking up, and her window's up, and he taps, and she looks and goes through the window, what do you want? And he's saying, your back tire's low. Your back tire's almost flat. My wife's like, what? I just got this fixed. So what does she do? She calls me right away. And I said, okay, well, does your car feel weird? Are you getting sensors on your car? Because she has a nice car, and it gives those. Usually her car will give her a sensor. Your tires, your PSI is X when it should be Y. And she goes, I'm not getting any of that. Your tire's fine. Drive home. Just make sure you're not being followed. And keep your eyes on your six and your sides. And I came home, and it was dark. She came home. It was dark time. I come out with my flashlight, and I'm on my toes. And I look at her tire. I go, your tire's freaking fine. So you did the right thing. So who knows what that guy's intentions were, but her tires were fine. And so,
and that's the thing is, so you can have a good experience, let's say, of, this gentleman did truly, I firmly believe that he did do everything with good intent. And in that story in the book, the way I end it from a female's perspective, what I assume was her perspective, because this was, again, somebody he didn't know. I didn't get to hear her side of the story, so I made a presumption of what her vantage point might have been.
You there?
Oh, no.
You there?
Did it happen again, Mike?
No, I can hear you.
Okay, because I can't see. Your video's gone.
Is it really?
Yes.
Seriously? I can see you.
I can't see you.
What the heck's going on? Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry.
No, it's cool. It's just weird. This has never happened before. I think
again, it's too much awesomeness in one room, Mike, or one connection. I can keep going if you want. I just was like, I know you're putting this out.
Yeah, let's keep going, because it says we're still being recorded. I'm looking at everything. And everything's uploaded 99%, and I see you and I see me on the screen. So
okay. Well, then I'll cut back in. I'll give a beat.
Yeah, no worries.
So you can edit and cut in.
That's weird.
And then I'll start finishing the story.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
That's weird. Yeah. Anyways, go ahead.
No, you're back.
Seriously? There's some weird stuff going on. Wow.
Do you have weather going on there?
No, weather's good. I don't know if anyone's outside. I'm doing this at my home office, so I don't know if anyone's outside playing with cables or fiber optics or whatever. But everything says we're working well here. So go ahead.
Okay, I will. So 3, 2, 1. But from her perspective, nothing happened. Okay, he left. He had fixed her tire. Ironically, it was a flat tire. He had fixed her tire. He left. And I can imagine she felt guilty. Great. This gentleman was just trying to be nice. I was scared to death, thinking he was a serial killer and he was going to kill me, and I was his next victim. And the stories that we start playing in our heads. So then the next time, that seed of doubt is planted. Okay, well, remember last time when you were so scared that person who was trying to do something nice for you? Don't overreact to this time. And so that seed of self-doubt is planted in her head. And the next time a situation presents itself where she should still be alert, she should still be aware of her surroundings, it's okay to make her personal safety a priority. She might have a little bit of, well, last time I was overreacting, so I'm not going to overreact this time, and second guess her intuition. And that's where I see women struggle is, well, this time everything was fine, but it doesn't mean the next time that's going to have the same outcome. And that's where I talk about human behavior. I don't think it's men. I don't think it's women. I don't think it's a human. If we have a vision in our head of what the scary person is going to look like, we're going to miss the obvious, charming Ted Bundys of the world.
What
don't fit that description.
Which Dr. Dietz has interviewed. Yeah, all those it's personality traits, and it whether it's female, male, you have to hopefully read the personality traits and the mannerisms, verbal, nonverbal communication, and what they're doing, their posturing, and how they behave. And so when something happens in their way, how do they react to certain situations can be a good indicator of what they may do to you. Like if you're having
What
lunch,
is their reaction to your boundary enforcement?
right? Like let's say you're having lunch with somebody and it's like your first date and the waiter spills water on you and the guy's like, that mother effer him, I should beat his ass. And well, that should be your clue that you might be dealing with a dude with some anger issues and you don't want to be on the other end of that. You don't want to be the new waiter when you're alone. So yeah, well, you speak about acting on your senses, which absolutely love and you should. So you're hitting all the buttons. That's good. Awesome. So I'm looking forward to read that book. That's killer.
Thanks. I'm very excited. It's one of those where I, again, wanted this information, the stories I had heard from women, the lessons I've learned from talking to really smart people. Again, I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I'm not saying, Dr. Dietz, I've created this whole thing. No, I've probably learned a lot.
That's good because a lot of
not
people,
even aware.
That's good because there are a lot of people that rip him off and they don't acknowledge.
Yeah,
him.
That's not.
And
good.
unfortunately, a lot of law enforcement does that. So
that's really unfortunate. And I try to cite as much as possible, obviously, of where I've heard things. And I recognize that I probably won't remember because I do like to read a lot of books and I do like to follow a lot of really smart people. So when I say things, I say, oh, how can I share it from my perspective? Or this example from a law enforcement, from a military perspective, reminds me of this in my everyday life. So really, I don't look at it as competition with self-defense instructors. I don't look at it as competition to threat assessment professionals. I'm adding another perspective to the overall conversation.
Awesome.
I want to help. I want to help reach as many people as possible. If the statistics on threats to women's safety, violence against women, assault on, again, women or men, haven't changed in decades. They've been stagnant. They've been stuck. And unfortunately, after the pandemic, a lot of increase.
We did.
And if what we've been doing for the last how many years, decades, hasn't been able to fix or have a good solution that seems to have stuck with people, then that's where we need to start having a different conversation or bringing other voices to the table to share their opinion, to give their perspective and work together. I belong to ATAP, Association of Threat Assessment Professionals. A lot of smart people, a lot of really intelligent people. And it's not good if we're only talking amongst each other in an echo chamber. Hey, I know you're smart. Hey, you're smart. And we're not actually getting this information to the everyday person.
Gee, that sounds like Washington, D.C.
Who wants to go to the holiday festival parade, who wants to go shopping, who is just trying to live their life and be present. And if we're not getting that threatening pre-threat indicators, if we're not talking about threat assessment from a human behaviors standpoint, then we're not really helping the people who need it most.
Absolutely. And you should get uncomfortable, whether you're training, teaching, what have you. And kudos to you. You've gotten out of that. You've gotten uncomfortable to expand your horizons and specialize in what you're doing, especially teaching women. I applaud you for that. That's really good. Most people, there's a lot of people that have good ideas and this and that, but they don't have the personality, or they just don't have that for lack of better words, to get uncomfortable, break out of your box and do it. And that's the only way you're going to grow and get better. You get uncomfortable in anything and do it. And as long as it's positive, uncomfortable. So that's
well, thank you.
Now, so it's awesome hearing you, how you like to give back. I love that sense of purpose in you. I feel the same way as far as giving back to people. So I was looking at something on your website that I'm looking at my notes. So I don't get this wrong. Legends of the Cloud. Do you still do that, or?
So yeah, that was on my LinkedIn page, I bet.
Yes.
In my previous life, which we really didn't get into, but my educational background or previous work, I've been a Jane of all trades. jack of all trades, whatever. Yeah. I don't care whichever you consider. I was in hospitality restaurants for a long time, and then happily stumbled upon sports tourism. And what that basically is, I work for the Convention and Visitors Bureau of our city. And my job was to bring amateur sporting events to town.
Okay. All right.
So youth sports and anything amateur sports, because especially with youth sports, you come with mom, dad, siblings, grandpa, aunts, uncles, lots of people staying in hotels, eating in our restaurants, spending money, local economic impact.
Right.
Great job. I had never knew that industry existed. It was so much fun. I got to do so many cool things. It was definitely a work hard, play hard atmosphere. And in that, I'm also big on promoting everybody else. Kind of an underlying thing that I've discovered in life in general is people don't like talking or bragging about themselves. Typically, there are those individuals who have no problem telling you how awesome they are.
Yeah, go on social media, see it all day long. The narcissistic crap is all over the top. But no, you're right.
Yes.
Good people have trouble speaking about themselves.
Right. They're very humble.
Mm-hmm.
And so in our area, because of the role I played in that sports world, is we had some really phenomenal athletes, really phenomenal individuals in our community that no one knew of. And so I did a marketing series called Legends of the Cloud, because we're saying cloud, and we featured an athlete once a month, did a little short video, posted it on YouTube, posted it out on social media. And we joked that the YouTube channel that we had set up almost in names only had like 3 views. And then after I did Legends of the Cloud, we had 100,000 views.
Oh, wow.
So we joked that, there was an interest. But again, that tied into, I really like celebrating other people. I'm always like, if you've got good news to share or you're doing something really cool, but you're feeling uncomfortable, tell me and I'll brag about it to everyone. Because then it's not you bragging. It's me saying, hey, look at what this awesome thing that Mike is doing over here. And that has served me in so many ways, even now with Diamond Arrow Group, is because of the industry being smaller, mostly male dominated, that I've come across a lot of females who are very guarded or they're very hesitant because they're, I don't know, there's a little competition and I'm like, the more the merrier. I'm here. You're there. I don't look at it as I want to be better than you. It's how can we both amplify our voices and kind of learn best practices, because there's a lot of work. There's a lot of women who need this information and guys. So if we kind of help support each other and cheer each other on, it's only going to make it better for all of us. So
beautiful. Awesome attitude. We need more of that. So I try to convey that to people that I deal with all the time. And it's like, hey, man, I'm just trying to help you out. And I love the confidence that you have. So, and that's what makes you work. And that's why you succeed is because it's a positive confidence. You're here to help people. And if you don't like it, okay, that's your problem. You own it, not me. And like we've said in the past, you own your actions. So regardless if they're good or bad, you had a play in that. So you own some of that. So even if it was bad, okay, well then how do we get over yourself and how do we improve that and get better?
Well, you're doing that with this podcast. You say, I want to talk to experts, and you're trying to bring their voices.
Absolutely. Yeah. People go, Mike, why are you doing a podcast? Oh my. And I had one guy straight up look at me, go, I go, hey, what do you think about podcasts? Because I didn't want to say I'm doing one. And he goes, oh, don't do it. I highly discourage it. Never do it. And I'm like, I'm starting a podcast.
Well, that's where you're the adage of nod your head, smile, and then do whatever the hell you wanted to do.
Well, I put him on the spot and I said, oh, that's interesting take. Well, I'm starting one. It's called Postel's podcast. And he's like, oh, well, yeah. And then he starts pedaling back and all that garbage. But yeah, people are funny. And look, I mean, I've learned a lot over my tenure in life. There's times I've popped off and wish I could have recoiled back. It comes with being, I guess, an outgoing type A person. I can be type B quite a bit, but then on the other hand, when you're hard charging and going for it, a lot of times you succeed at things and you go for it and I do that on a positive level. So, there's so much we could talk about anyways. Obviously we had that heartbreak in Wisconsin the other day. And, since we're short on time, to narrow it down, I want to touch upon situational awareness because that's what you focus on. So obviously there could be people that were more prepared situationally wise. There could have been people that when they saw the car, I mean, that little girl standing there in a car flying by, my heart just dropped into my gut. I was like, oh my gosh. And thank God. And then you see the car go down and kind of stop in front of the band or the I think there were grandmas for something or whatever. And then just hits the accelerator. You know, the way things are nowadays, whether it's terrorism or disgruntled person or has an agenda because he believes this crap or that propaganda, you know, maybe someone should have ran up to that car and tried to do something. Maybe someone should have been alert. I don't want to armchair quarterback because it's going nanosecond and it's too fast. So I'm not blaming anybody. It's horrible. And the only one to blame is the perpetrator, a piece of crap.
Yes.
So you don't even want to know that the turnaround justice I would do that individual. You need to throw me back about 1,000 centuries back, the way I would treat that piece of crap. Pardon my language. So, anyways, situationally, you were talking with that gentleman earlier today, and I was listening to how teaming up with your family, putting certain on points, and the way I look at it is you need to define your roles with people. And you need to, yes. and then you have to, it's okay to say to someone, I'm not comfortable doing that. And I would rather hear someone say that, I'm not okay, Mike, or I'm not okay, Kelly, with doing that. Then we know where you stand, and then we can rely on you for other things. But if you say, oh, hell yeah, I'm on point, put me there, and let it rip, and I'm going to town. Okay. And then it's in front of your face. It doesn't happen. You're a piece of garbage. You didn't honor your word, and you just BS me. And there's a lot of people that do that. So I'm babbling, but if you want to touch upon your attitude on that, being a mom, a wife, you have two young boys, right? So I think that's really important for people out there to hear coming from yourself, what your attitude is with that.
In regards to situational awareness in my family?
Yeah, teamwork, situational awareness involving you and your family, working as a team, certain code words, all those kind of things.
Well, and since where you're located is Southern California, I will share a story from Huntington Beach, California.
Right next to me.
My husband and I and our two boys who were 6 and 8 at the time, they're now 8 and 10, so it might have been even 5 and 7. We were on a family vacation. It was their first time going to be flying on an airplane, going to visit my friend who still lives in Southern California. And we had gone to the Huntington Beach Main Street area.
Circus.
Have lunch right at BJ's there on the corner. And we were going to walk to the pier. And while we're Minnesotans, it's February in Southern California, and we think it's gorgeous out.
Right.
So we're like, we want to sit on the patio. And, you know, I had the view to the street. My husband had the view to the restaurant door. And while I was looking, there was a gentleman standing on the corner who continued to look at us. And my husband and I shared this morning, but, and I still haven't looked it up. The movie with Sandra Bullock where they have to blindfold themselves so they don't go crazy.
You said that, and I didn't have time to look it up either.
I should have looked it up. I didn't. That movie, my husband and I decided from then on, if we ever noticed anything suspicious about anyone, our comment to one another would be, well, that person wouldn't need a blindfold. And so I said that to my husband, and he kind of looked at me because he, again, wasn't seeing what I was seeing, but he was like, okay, she sees someone. We had our 2 kids. It's something that didn't alarm our kids. They're totally oblivious. You know, they're eating their chicken nuggets, having a great time. we left the restaurant, started walking towards the pier. And once we got to the PCH and we're waiting to cross the crosswalk to get to the pier, all of a sudden I'm like, he's standing right there. Like he had followed us from, and then what's 2 blocks, 3 blocks maybe from BJ's to PCH. And he was in the crowd because again, this is midday. So there's a lunch crowd. People are out on the streets. It's not deserted, lots of people. So it's that whole, okay, heightened awareness because he now followed us from the restaurant. Again, could be completely coincidental, but in our line of work, you know, my line of work, my husband's line of work, you still take precaution. And so we crossed and then we stopped and waited to see. And the individual walked a little bit ahead of us and then stopped as well. While everybody else that had been around us kept moving forward out to the pier, going down to, you know, the end. And we were like, okay, we're going to turn around. Kind of like abort mission. So of course we had to turn around and then wait at the crosswalk again, unfortunately. So we're standing at the crosswalk waiting to cross. And both my husband and I noticed the individual starts walking to get behind us to cross the crosswalk again. I'm like, oh man. So we're walking back, but now we're on the other side of the street by Jack's.
Yes.
And it has those 4 entry points. And so we're walking, and I'm realizing this guy's getting closer and he's not slowing down. I have my oldest son, my husband has our youngest son. And so we're kind of walking in front of each other, both of us holding our hands. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what this guy's doing. I'm going to dash into the retail establishment. And so I go in and kind of position myself behind a clothing rack so I can still see out the entrance, but there is a little bit of a barrier. And the gentleman stops outside, right outside the door. My husband, of course, with the youngest sees something he wants, shiny object, who knows what it was. And of course he stops and he's like, you know, oh, I want that, or can I have that, or let me touch that, whatever. So he kind of distracts my husband for a moment, stops. Well, the individual walks past my husband towards where I am. And my husband at that point went, okay, he just got between me and my wife. This is now, I need to confront. So my husband leaves our youngest standing there and he goes to confront the dude. And I went around, grabbed the kids and started making my way out to, what would that be? The west end of the store to kind of get away. And sure enough, you know, and again, I'm not trying to caveat this whole situation. My husband is law enforcement. He is trained in de-escalation. I don't recommend if you have, like, he wasn't trying to start a fight. So let's be very clear with that.
Understood.
He was trying to say, I need to address this situation because he has now followed us. He has turned around. He has come into this store. He got between me and my wife. This is now escalated to the point I need to confront him. And I had my kids. And in that moment, I was like, my husband has no clue where we parked the car. Like, I'm familiar with the area because I lived around here. He's going to be like, where did we park the dang car? And I had the keys. And so I kind of hung back in the store. And sure enough, the store manager came to my husband, you know, is there a problem? And turns out this individual was known to the store. He's a regular hanger-outer on the corners. And so they escorted him out of the store. You know, they asked if my husband wanted to file a police report. My husband's like, I am the police. It's fine. We don't live here. You know, nothing happened. And still it was enough to where then when we walked back to the vehicle, we were like, we're done. We never got out to the pier. We got back to the vehicle and both him and I were on high alert, looking down alleyways, making sure the guy wasn't going to double back, all of these things. But that's the type of thing where if we didn't have that code word, if we hadn't known our roles as protector, as partners of protectors of our family, that could have ended very differently. And having those conversations, and even to the point of where I realized we didn't talk about a rendezvous point if something should happen, if we should get separated. We hadn't had some of those discussions because, quite honestly and naively, I was like, it's noon in Huntington Beach, California. It's sunny and gorgeous. And my husband does not look like someone who's approachable. So, you know, most people, like, to me, I was like, there's no way somebody would ever target me or my family, which goes to show Everyone is on someone's list.
Yeah, absolutely.
It does not matter. You need to have a plan. You can think that you're completely immune to it, that you have the best situational awareness skills, that you have the most training. If someone starts targeting you, then it's on.
There's predators out there that will target you because they think you're another predator and they want to get the jump on you. There's that kind of mindset out there. Obviously, there's all kinds of other predators out there, but yes, they walk and live amongst us 24/7 now. There's no safe time. I actually have a plan and a backup plan before I leave the door every day. No big deal. This is all the stuff I learned from the experts. I learned from a good friend of mine, Mark W. I'll leave it at that. He's in law enforcement in a local place out here. I'll leave it at that. Total stud guy. And I learned from him years ago. Him and his partner walking out in the neighborhoods and stuff. They had a code word, and they would use hockey. And so they were following a suspect, a gangbanger, and the gangbanger started reaching. They were watching his hands, and not to alert the individual, the suspect. Mark said hockey. No one knows what the hell they're talking about. Oh, did you see the hockey game last night? Well, hopefully there's hockey during that time of year, but or maybe you just love hockey. So, anyways, nothing special about it, but just one simple word, hockey. And they were alerted, and the guy tried to draw down on a gun. They got him. Wow. I use a word. I'm not going to say it here on air, but my wife, family, and I use a certain word. And if I say that word, everyone goes to red alert, on your toes, paying attention, situational awareness. What's up? If dad's saying it, something's going down. And so that's good. And then obviously trying to get a rally point, or especially if you're amongst crowds. When I would do executive protection for families, we would do certain hand gestures or raise our hands into a triangle or whatever, so you could see these hands in a triangle up above the whole crowd, and you knew, oh, there's Mike over there. Let's go. We'll rendezvous and meet over there. So yeah, it's just stuff you learn from experience. But yeah, that's great that you guys have that teamwork going, because most people don't. So awesome. So I could sit here and talk for hours with you. We definitely got to do another time, Kelly, because this is awesome. And is there anything you'd like to state that I forgot to ask, or like to bring up that you think's of importance, or at least let us know your website, how people can get a hold of you, especially if there's a lot of women, ladies, girls out there that would like to learn from you, pick your brain, your experience, etc. How can I learn from Kelly?
That's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of questions. Okay,
yeah,
so let me try and knock
I'm trying to just jam it all in there. So just fire away with how people can get a hold of you, etc.
Okay, so you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook at The Diamond Arrow Group. The website is thediamondarrowgroup.com. Highly recommend checking that out, getting on the email list. It's going through a major website renovation right now, so give me grace on that. We're going to be updating that with the book coming out. I feel free to connect, reach out, messages, work on Instagram, on Facebook. If you're on LinkedIn, you can connect with me, Kelly Sayre, on LinkedIn. The biggest thing that if I could leave individuals with, male or female, that are listening right now, is there's no such thing as perfect situational awareness. I don't know if you agree with me on that or not, but it's daily habits, small daily habits that you implement that will have the biggest impact on your personal safety over time. Just like diets, just like, eating healthy, your nutrition, getting sleep. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to build that habit. You have to build that routine, and it's a lifestyle. It's not about paranoia. It's about staying curious. And a lot of times people feel overwhelmed, don't know where to start. I say, start with being curious. Get curious about your surroundings. Anytime that you can, take a moment. How many different sounds can you pick out in your environment right now? It could be the hum of a dryer going. It could be the chirping of a bird. It could be the sound of somebody making a copy on a copy machine. Whatever it may be, start honing all of your senses: hearing, sight, smell, the sense of touch, feeling. And keep in mind that intuition is that basic survival instinct. It wants to keep you alive.
Absolutely.
Your intuition is not a prankster. It is has your best interest in mind, whether or not you know. If things are happening so fast, your senses are picking it up, filtering through your subconscious, and it doesn't have time to tell you. It just needs you to pay attention. Kind of to your point, if you say that word in your family, everyone just goes, okay, what do we got? Stay curious. This is your excuse to people watch and to judge people. Mm-hmm. Make up games. Mm-hmm. What do you think that person does for a living? What do you think their mood is in that moment? It's getting curious. And that's where I think kids can help remind us. If you have small children, it can be a great reminder to remember to look through the world through their eyes, because they're very curious. They're very curious about the world around them. So,
yeah, no, well said. And by the way, situational awareness can play into just your personal safety, not getting hurt. I witnessed an older lady misjudge a simple curb to the street, and her foot landed and she fell over and broke her hip. No joke. Had to call EMS. This was at my neighbor's house right next to me. I was like, oh my gosh, wow, that looked painful. I helped what I could, and then we got the ambulance over there and took her away, but she broke her hip. Yeah. So it's situational awareness is for your own well-being. Let's not forget about, that has to be some sort of threatening thing. It's for your own personal thing. Like I do it constantly walking my mal. I mean, situational awareness, walking at night with my flashlight so I don't step in a pile of somebody's dog garbage that they didn't bother to pick up, which I've stepped in before, and you're just like, oh my gosh. But
yeah, it's the worst.
That's my fault. I owned it. Someone left it there, but I hit it. So, yeah. So anyways, no, I agree with you 100%. Kelly, it's been awesome. I'm really looking forward to seeing this book hit the shelves or online. And I just bought a whole bunch of books right now. I'm reading 2 different books as we speak. And, I highly encourage anyone, I don't care who you are, what your flavor is, to check out Kelly, look her up, follow her on social media. Sharp lady. She's definitely in tune with her senses and situational awareness, and definitely you can learn from her. Kelly, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mike.
And
I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way. Happy holidays.
Yes. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.